Hello, Southern Cameroonians. Hello, brave soldiers of our revolution. Accept greetings from me today, this Monday, the 4th day of February, day of our Lord 2019. Today, we are going to be looking at some of the salient and important issues that were discussed at a meeting that was held on Saturday. That was the 2nd of February, the year 2019, between us and a delegation from Cameroon. That delegation was led by Mr. Eli Smith of the Cardinal Toomey initiated Anglophone General Conference, the AGC. Mr. Smith was accompanied by a man of God, and the two of them were in the United States of America, purportedly to have a talk with us. And so on the 30th of January 2018, I received the invitation and those words from Comrade Sako Samuel. And he wrote, "We have to meet a delegation from Yaoundé. The delegation is sent by EU ambassadors and Cardinal Toomey." He said tomorrow, that was supposed to be on the 1st of February. And he said, Comrade Cometa will call you. And so on the 1st of February, I couldn't make it for the meeting. I was so far away to be able to catch up on time. And then eventually there was another chance for us to have a recap on the 2nd of February, which was a Saturday. And so we met at 8 a.m. in Maryland, and we examined a number of very important issues. This was absolutely not a private meeting. It wasn't a sacred meeting because it was a meeting meant to discuss our struggle. So during that meeting, the delegation from Yaoundé expressed the need and the importance for us to be able to have a talk where everyone, all the shades of opinion in Southern Cameroon could be represented. And they were quite delighted to find out that contrary to the impression they've been having when listening to audios and reading comments on social media, that we were all at daggers drawn and could not even see eyeball to eyeball, they were shocked to find us from the various group obediences sitting down convivially and very cordially to talk about Southern Cameroons. And so in the discussions that ensued, we all agreed, all parties agreed that it is essential for us to have a sitting so that we give the world a clear view what we believe should be the way out in the current conflict that is ongoing between us, the people of Southern Cameroons, and the La République du Cameroun. Of course, it's no secret to anyone that La République du Cameroun, through their president, Mr. Paul Biya, declared war on us because we asked for greater autonomy. And so during that meeting, we examined the difficulties involved in having such a meeting held in Cameroon, and also came to the agreement that it will be very erroneous and practically impossible for us to try to stage that meeting anywhere on the African continent, because especially those of us in the diaspora made clear that inasmuch as we shall not even be allowed to enter Cameroon for such a meeting, or if we are allowed to enter, it's very unlikely that we will come out alive. We also thought that after what happened to Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and other members of his cabinet in Nera Hotel in Abuja, Nigeria, we were unlikely to trust any other African leader with our lives and with, with us physically present there in one whole group having a meeting of Southern Cameroonians. So we told ourselves that it would make a lot of sense for such a gathering to be held in the United States of America. And so both parties agreed that it made a lot of sense to ensure that everyone could be able to speak their minds and be able to, say exactly what they think. And we come up with exactly what we want the world to do for us, what we want the international community to do for us. So we also came to the agreement that it made a lot of sense for the TUMI initiated AGC to be suspended indefinitely, so that all those, or a good lot of those who would have taken part at that meeting, should move to the United States and rather take part at another meeting of equal dimension initiated by Dr. Fontem Neba Afoteka. And so after we came to that general agreement, that it made sense, therefore, for all of us to focus attention towards this particular meeting, we all moved that Dr. Fontem Neba and all of those who have joined him in initiating and are organizing that meeting should shift the date of the meeting, which was slated for the 22nd and 23rd of February, temporarily to the 15th and 16th of March, to give time to Mr. Ellis Smith and the other member of his delegation to return to Cameroon and have a talk with all the other stakeholders that will have to attend this meeting in the United States of America and agree on a timeline that will be possible for them to move out, so that things could become far more definite and more clarified. Now, the talks about other conferences that were in the pipeline also came up. We talked about the APNC, and it was generally agreed, all parties, because that meeting brought together representatives of the interim government. We had Mr. Sebastian, who is the personal assistant to Mr. Sako Samuel, and Mr. Tabenyan Brado, who is a finance secretary from the IG. We had Elvis Kometa from the SCNC. We had my humble self from the consortium, and Comrade Akwanga Ebenezer from the APLM, that usually was before known as the SCYL. And so we all came to the agreement that the APNC that is in the offing is entirely an internal IG affair. And so its holding or not would not be able to impact a meeting that has to bring together all shades of opinion, because that meeting is expected to bring together federalists, it's expected to bring together restorationists, and it's expected to bring together even those who still stand for a unitary Cameroon. Because after all is said and done, we came to the understanding that we, after the struggle, are all going to live in southern Cameroon. Whether you are a federalist, you are a restorationist, or you are a unitarist. And so when this struggle will be resolved, we will all live together as brothers and sisters. The only things that separate us are our thoughts and the various schools that we stand for right now. And so that agreement was made that the APNC and even another future conference that the IG had in the offing, as was brought up by Comrade Tabenyan Brado, it was also mutually agreed that that was still a forlorn project. And so it could not, in any way, obstruct the holding of the vast and larger meeting that was initiated by Dr. Fontem. And so, clearly put, we all agreed, therefore, that the AGC should be merged with this conference. And so, every other Southern Cameroonian who can make it will have to be in the United States of America at the time that the date will be made really definite, so that we all look at each other eyeball to eyeball and agree on a mode to move forward. The most important thing being to ensure that we minimize the loss of lives on the territory of the Southern Cameroons. So these meetings came after one that was held previously, a closed-door meeting between Mr. Ellis Smith and the other member of his delegation, and Comrade Samuel Sako at the residence of his personal assistant, Sebastian. So that broad-based meeting, therefore, gave us the opportunity to agree simply on another meeting. So no agreements were made on any other issue, no endorsements were made to any other conference, accepting the conference being organized by Dr. Fontem Neba Africa that we considered could be a much more unifying factor that will let all of us sit together and then be able to come up with strong resolutions that should make the world understand that we as a people can disagree on ideology, but we would not become enemies as a result of the different ideologies that we hold. So the proceedings, the discussions at that meeting were clearly recorded to ensure that we will never go ahead to have any misrepresentation of whatever was discussed. And so at the appropriate moment, perhaps in the days ahead, this recording could be declassified and actually put out there for all Southern Cameroonians to know exactly what was discussed. Because we're discussing the lives of a people, because we are discussing the very destiny of our people, nothing about such discussions could be placed under the domain of secrecy. And that is actually sacrosanct going forward. That said, I must point out that by recording that meeting, we're just taking an extra measure, because there's an African proverb which says, until the rotten tooth is pulled out, the mouth must chew with caution. This is because we know the operational modalities of the imperialist France. And we know that when we are told that people were coming at the behest or were being sponsored by the European Union, we tell ourselves we actually have to be very careful, because games could all the same be in the offing. However, the talks were frank. Everybody seemed honest. And I think that going forward, we shall be watching out to ensure that we stay exactly by what agreements we came to. So there is nothing this far to be presented to anybody in the world as a resolution from that meeting. The only agreement was for yet another meeting, being the larger meeting, bringing together all the key stakeholders in Southern Cameroon to take place. I won't go without pointing out this discrepancy, that it has come to our notice that each time we have the opportunity to sit down and talk about the lives of the people of Southern Cameroon, some always see in it their opportunity to play games. That is why, shortly after that meeting, some pictures that were taken at the meeting were tampered with, were edited and put out there with the sole purpose to portray some of us as sellouts who have gone out there to talk to federalists or who are associating with federalists. It was simply meant to give the impression that some people are working against the struggle while others are actually devoting their entire lives to make sure that we get to somewhere. This is extremely regrettable, because there are such attitudes that make it difficult for us to have trust in one another. There are such attitudes that make it difficult for us to feel like we can work with one another with an open heart and an open mind. In the hours ahead, some audios will be circulating that will be revealing some very frustrating information just about how some of us in the leadership of this struggle think and how we behave. If we don't hurry to put an end to such games when people are dying in droves, I am convinced that we will be wasting our efforts. All such efforts that are generally being wasted in trying to bring other people down should simply be contributed in bringing La République du Cameroun out of our territory. I think that is the only way that we secure victory. Let me make this message clear. The people of Southern Cameroon must talk to themselves. If we refuse to talk to ourselves, then we are lending credence to some of the noise being made by those who hate to see our freedom out there, that if we are led to become independent, we will become another Southern Sudan. but of course, the culture of democracy that our forefathers bequeathed to us by being the first nation in Africa to have a democratic power transition from an incumbent to an opposition leader took place in southern Cameroon. That was prior to 1960. So that legacy is what we should and must continue to portray to the world. I'd like to thank each and every one of us who will be contributing one way or the other to ensure that this all-important conference takes place and that we all come together and use that opportunity to show to the world those whom we believe will have the mantle and the mandate to talk on our behalf when and wherever the need will arise. Right now, nobody is mandated to negotiate on behalf of the people of Southern Cameroon. At least such a decision was never taken at the meeting that we held on Saturday. God is with us.